It is bad. It is bad. You look at the impact on the poorest of the poor, those who are already marginalized, do not have jobs, and those that whose salaries have been cut. It is impacting more on those that do not have, really, and it is highlighting the inequality that exists in this country also.
I have been to one or two of the townships in the past, and I know what it's like, the overcrowding and the poverty. Can you give me a sense of what they must be experiencing at a time of pandemic?
The townships are already overcrowded, and if you say somebody must keep a social distance, it is just near impossible. So that was quite a challenge because people live on top of each other in certain townships. And the other non-pharmaceutical intervention was people must wash their hands frequently with soap. In certain places, water and sanitation are still a challenge in democratic South Africa. So that was not possible. At least the cloth masks were possible because you could take your old shirt and rip it apart and create more masks. So some of those things that perhaps in your neck of the woods could be taken for granted were the real issues here. So it was really traumatic. I'm glad in terms of the harsh lockdown protocols, we're slowly getting out of that.
What percentage of the people of South Africa have now been vaccinated?
So the rollout hasn't actually started for ordinary people except the health workers. And by health workers, I mean doctors and nurses and those that work in hospitals as cleaners, porters have not. So I could say just less than 1% of South Africa has been vaccinated, which is very worrying if we are to attain that population immunity.
The contrast with the UK, where our vaccination rollout has been immensely successful, is very marked. And I know that you have said that vaccine nationalism has taken hold. What do you mean by that?
Vaccination has not taken hold in the main in the global south. And if one go deeper into why it has not taken place, it's because the US, the UK, Germany don't seem to know the injunction that we should be our sister and brother's keeper and really show solidarity when it comes to vaccination. There is a tendency to hoard the vaccines. It's as if those countries that have hoarded the vaccines feel they can put their national flag on the vaccine and vaccinate their own people, and that the virus, as it mutates from where people are not vaccinated, it will never arrive in their country. So it is equivalent to apartheid laws that said, because I am black, I cannot walk here, I cannot travel there, I cannot get access to health and medication. So we're seeing it now on the sharing of the vaccines themselves and the lack of sharing in terms of the licenses, the intellectual property, so that we too can scale up our vaccination process.
Archbishop, you've been very critical of the corruption in the public health systems in South Africa. Do you understand why there might be reluctance to supply millions of doses of vaccine if people think that they're perhaps going to waste and going to fall into the wrong hands?
So corruption steals from the poor, it steals from the marginalized, and it steals from those that are outside the main centers. But if the vaccines are also rolled out in partnership with the churches, we will hold ourselves accountable and we will hold the government accountable. Not everyone is corrupt, but we will speak out against corruption if we see it and people steal the vaccines that are so much needed to help God's people.